Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. Listeners, we are back, and unfortunately, my Pasho is working again. If you're new, I'm a retired nurse at 33 years, so I don't really do much but walk, occasionally record one of these podcasts, occasionally write a book, occasionally make some pizza. But my Pasho is still working, and he is the mic, so I miss him. But can't believe we're back here recording another episode. We are season 5, episode 9. Chandler Stroud coming from Darien, Connecticut. And again, if you're new, thank you so much for tuning in. I can't believe it. Just like I said, we're season 5. Somehow we've been listened to in 59 countries now in 845 cities, which is crazy because we do no advertising. Nobody knows about us, but somehow people find us when they need us. And we are going to be treated today because we have a guest who's going to drop so much knowledge. So get out a pen and paper and be ready. But back to the intro real quick. This podcast is part of a nonprofit. The nonprofit's called C4 Leaders, and we're the only nonprofit to utilize the pizza making process to create space for our companions to be seen, heard, and loved. Like I mentioned, we also write children's books, and then we use the most amazing handmade, hand-tossed sourdough. You heard that right, sourdough pizza, to bring out the best in each other. So if you're interested in checking us out in that space, just go to pizzadays.org. And I don't know why sometimes people are getting a little crazy, but it's just a YS. There's no Z in them days. It's just pizzadays.org. But here we go. Let's go. We got work to do. Best place you can find our guests, again, Chandler Stroud, is through her podcast website, which is healingheroespodcast.com. She's all over the place, and it's the same for Instagram. Healingheroespodcast.com. So about our guest, a few years ago, Chandler was traveling for work and became curious about her past traumas and the impact they were having on her present life. At 4 a.m., inspirational wake up led Chandler to her current journey as the host of Healing Heroes podcast. That early morning, Chandler sprung out of bed and transcribed her vision for the show. And since that time has been building her team of heroes who have the mission to empower women all over the world. Chandler is a wife, mother, and former corporate marketing executive who is all in on seeking her quest for her transformative journey of self-discovery. Chandler has surrounded herself with her heroes who represent not just experts in their fields, but her own healers and advisors who serve as guides along her path to peace, happiness, and ultimately living the life she was meant to be living. Chandler, thanks for taking a leap of faith in your self-discovery. Thanks for putting an incredible team of healers together that have, in a short time, impacted women all over the world. And thanks for being our guest on Life's Essential Ingredients. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It's great to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. I love this. This podcast started during COVID, and Mike and I, again, if you're new, Mike is his name, but I call him Pasho. We had a short stint where we were dating some sisters in college, and Mike's Croatian and kind of brother-in-law. The term for that is Pasho. So I call him Pasho. But we started this just to try and help one person. And it's been crazy that one person is always me. I have gained so much knowledge and insight and come up with so many questions about my life and trying to figure everything out through this podcast. And I just love it. I just love doing it. And so you're a new guest, and we always start with a thought of the day. And it's a quote that I pick after researching you, and it's from your buddy, Carl Jung.
Ooh,
yeah.
Love him.
Yeah, he's incredible. And it's a short one, but it's deep. So here it goes. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Why would I pick that quote? And I'm getting goosebumps. I got goosebumps on your intro, which is crazy. I get goosebumps all the time, but not so much on the intros. I got them on the intro, and then I just got them again after that quote. But why would I pick that one for you?
Oh, it's so relevant in so many different ways, Jeff. You could not have picked a better quote. I mean, first off, I talk all about trauma and the experiences that we have as in our youth, in our childhood, and that it's not about what happens to you. It's about how you perceive what's happening to you. And that works as you look to the past, but it also is relevant as you think about the future and your present day. You have control over your life, your healing, how you interact and behave with the world around you. And when you realize that and learn how to yield that kind of energy, you can become anything you want to be.
Mm, true that. True that. And that's I know that's what you've been investing at this point your whole life. Even when you had the ingredients that were in your life, not by your choice, that didn't make sense. And we're on again. We use pizza, so we're going to throw in a bunch of pizza stuff.
My favorite food. Let's do it.
It's the world's number one favorite food. But so many times we grow up and we're eating this pizza, which is again just our life recipe, and there's all these ingredients that are put on there for us, some good and some not so good. And as we continue to mature and grow and age, we start to take a step back and realize, well, what are those? How'd they get there? And are they serving me now? Perhaps at some point in our lives, they did serve. Even the ones that weren't so good for us served their purpose at that time. And why it's so important to keep doing this deep work that you're doing with your team and to help people, because we got to keep looking at, all right, well, is that something that's serving me now? And if not, I don't even like the taste of that. Let me take that off, and replace it with something that's going to provide me more nourishment to my heart and soul. And so, I'm fired up for this episode. And Chandler, don't get it twisted. When my head is down, I'm taking notes. So my phone is nowhere to be found.
I'm not worried, Jeff. I'm not worried.
I'm not looking at something else, and I'm taking notes. So I usually get 2 or 3 pages of notes from each episode. But let's get into you. We always start out just because I like the listeners to kind of get to know you, and it's a goofy first question. You can take it from any standpoint you want. But what was life like growing up?
Oh, that's a big question for me, I have to say. I mean, look, at the highest level, I'm an incredibly privileged, blessed individual. I grew up with means. I grew up going to incredible schools. I, for a while, had 2 parents at home who loved me and supported me. And that's not lost on me, right? I'm very fortunate. And I actually credit that upbringing and those resources to coming out the other side of my childhood with so much resilience, strength, and the ability to pull myself up and really continue to move forward in a productive way. But amongst that fortune and those resources were also a lot of struggles. My parents separated at a very young age. Shortly thereafter, I endured years of sexual abuse at the hands of my babysitter's husband. I was overweight. I was struggling in school. I mean, the list goes on. It was a really tough few years. But as you kind of noted at the opening of the podcast, through my healing journey, I have really learned that things do not happen to us. They happen for us. And as soon as I realized that, and I looked back at my experiences and all the ways that, whether you believe in God, the universe, I happen to believe in God, the ways God showed up for me to pull me out of those circumstances, to help me propel myself forward, the doors that opened, the people that came into my life, I really look back and see that it had to happen that way. And what a miraculous thing to wake up to your life in the middle of it the way I've been able to, as a result of finally getting curious and working to understand myself and my experiences better and how they're driving how I show up in my present. I mean, it's an incredibly powerful journey to go on. And I have found the kind of joy and health that I only dreamed of for so long. So I'm grateful for all of it.
Mm. Man, you just dropped the mic and shared so many things. And first of all, I just want to apologize, not the right word, but sorry that you went through that. And I know you've healed and you're stronger for it and everything, but yeah, nobody deserves to go through that. And I know you have two children. I have two daughters, and you just hear that and it always hurts because you just think about, yeah, just anybody going through that. So yeah, I apologize for that. But I want to jump ahead to what you were sharing towards the end, of how you've taken all that pain and suffering and it's led you to this happiness and joy that you experience. What do you think was the turning point in your life? Was there someone, something, a book, something? What was that? Because maybe there's a listener that's going through a similar experience right now, and what you share next could be the thing to kind of light their fuse, so to say, in the terms of C4 stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share that. I think so. There's two things I would say there. The first is for me, there was a circumstance that I would say created a lot of stress and anxiety for me. Namely, my father had been diagnosed with a terminal illness, essentially. And at that point in time, this was about a year and a half ago at this point. At that time, I had always struggled with digestive discomfort, just challenges my whole life, right? And I hit kind of what I would say the end of my rope. I just became really uncomfortable. My stomach was acting up way more than it had been, and I had reached the end of my rope. And I happened to be traveling for work while all of this was happening. I had a big job and was traveling out west. And to your point earlier, I found a book in an airport. It caught my eye from afar. And that book was The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk.
Read that.
And for your listeners, that book taught me one very critical thing that has carried me through my journey, which is that your emotions, your experiences, your stressors, you don't digest just the food you eat. You digest your life as well. And your emotions, your emotional state will show up in your body and manifest in physical symptoms if gone unchecked. And that was a huge turning point for me, because what it helped me realize was that the physical discomfort that I was in, the anxiety I was feeling that heightened upon becoming a mother to my kids, the feeling of I feel like I should be happier given this blessed life I'm living. Why do I feel a little bit disengaged with the world? Like I should be happier in some of my most joyful moments. All of this was likely a result of my traumas, my childhood wounding that I had not fully processed. And so I would say that was really a catalyst for me. I think was one, recognizing that something wasn't right. I had come to a place where I was physically unwell and there were no explanations. I sought medical care, got all the tests done. Everything was totally normal. And that is really when I turned to more holistic understandings of health and wellness. And I started really peeling back the layers on the work that needed to get done. And it's made all the difference.
Yeah, I love doing this because obviously I don't know you. Researched you, listened to you on a podcast, went to your site, listened to one of your shows. And to hear that you have this transformation. And this is a kind of a dumb thing to say because it's a year and a half or so that you've really been kind of knocking out this work, and to see how far you've come. And it's a dumb thing to say because I know it's probably way longer than that, but it does seem on the surface, like in this short amount of time, of everything that you've kind of put together for yourself and just jumped into. And that's why I said on my intro, just being all into this journey of self-discovery for yourself, but for then all the women that are looking to you to provide some insight into their life and to be able to take a step back and say, hey, you know what, Chandler was in a similar situation, and in a short amount of time, she's taken all these steps. And so I just want to say thank you and congrats on doing that, because I did mention in the start, I'm a nurse of 33 years is what I did, and retired now, unfortunately, from some bunch of health kind of issues. But self-care is one of the hardest things for anybody to do for some dumb reason. We'll give our energy and all of our time and resources to other people, but so often we just don't give it to ourselves. And I love that that's what you're focusing on, of helping people learn how to do that, especially women. Being a male and being in a female dominated profession. When you've been a nurse this long, when I started, there weren't many men in nursing at all.
Like that.
And knowing all the incredible things that women do to make our world function, it's I really take my hat off to all women or anybody that's in that role of having to manage their professional life, manage a family, manage their significant other, manage doing every last thing that goes into managing a family is not easy at all. And so, yeah, for you to be able to give people some harmony in that space, again, is great. But I do have a question. Sorry, I'm talking too long, and it's kind of off of what I'm just sharing right now, but it ties in a little bit. I'm curious, in your mother role, how have you parented your kids I know you told me your life was incredible growing up, but yeah, with all the learning that you're doing now. And how old are your kids? If I don't know if that's
of course, they're 7 and 9. I have a son and a younger daughter.
Okay. So before you were on this journey, which again, it's been kind of short. So what was Chandler like 4 or 5 years ago in your parenting role? And then how are you different in that role now, if there is a difference? Because I think that'd be a cool thing for a parent that's listening to be able to gain some of that insight, just because I think it's the hardest job that there is raising a family.
I could not agree with you more, Jeff. It's such an excellent question. And let me tell you, I am a completely different mother, to the point where I've had people who know me well and just acquaintances say, you seem so different. My kids are different. My relationship with my husband is different. Before, I was anxious. I was grasping for control. I wanted to control my environment because I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust the safety of my children. I was people pleasing. I was doing all of the things. I mean, we'd be late for, a sport, and I'd be yelling at my kids to get ready. Let's go, let's go. I mean, yelling was just like the default reaction in our house. And I've learned so much about energy and how it expands beyond that one person and creates a ripple effect in their orbit. And so what I've found now is that by resetting my own nervous system, I am more at peace, and my kids sense that. And I feel that as well. I'm able to connect with them, to make them feel seen. Sometimes I ask myself, why? Why am I in such a rush to get to soccer or to school? Like, what's the big deal if we're 10 minutes late, if it means making one of my kids feel seen and heard when they're upset? And that has changed everything. We can have real, meaningful, connected conversations. I'm coming from a place of peace, and it's really changed everything. It doesn't mean that we don't get to the point where, they're watching TV and tuning me out and not listening. We still have those moments, but I handle them so differently. I'm so much less quick to anger. And it's truly been game changing.
Man, congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I mean, you do this work for them. We do talk a lot about how trauma passes generation to generation. I mean, they've done studies in rats where, I don't know if you're familiar with this, where the cherry blossom study, where the mothers are exposed to cherry blossoms and they get electrocuted, and their children have a trauma response to just seeing the cherry blossoms. So we pass these experiences genetically to our children, and then they have their own on top of that. Because again, trauma isn't just what happened to you, it can also be what you didn't get as a kid as well. And I think we often don't realize how some of these seemingly insignificant and innocuous moments really stack up and create these beliefs about ourselves that are holding us back. And my job as a parent is to live in my self-worth so that my children can live in theirs. And I need to help them see that and learn how to love themselves, because I don't know that we actively do that for our children. And it truly is, it's the key to unlocking everything, everything.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I totally agree and love how you just have, creating space to enhance their self-worth. And I do want to take a step back because I think it's a good tip for the listeners when you said you reset your nervous system. And so obviously you're fired up. It's the morning. You're going back to Chandler 3 or 4 years ago, and you're all right. Well, that's not who I am now. So walk, and you get triggered, which I'm sure happens all the time. Walk the listener through one of your practices that they can incorporate into their life recipe if they're struggling, even right now as they're listening to this.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I mean, I think to fully reset the nervous system, it did take a process, which I now teach as part of the community I'm building, because I do think we're told just be present with yourself, meditate, do all this stuff. But I think especially for busy women, that state can be so hard to access, so hard to achieve. And so my job is to help them find approaches that gently get them over the line and nudge them there without them feeling like they're doing something wrong. And one of the things that I love to employ that absolutely shifts the energy of my day at the start of every day is yoga. I know that sounds obvious, and I don't do it for exercise. I want to be clear about that. I put on a 5, sometimes 10-minute, but usually 5-minute flow on a Peloton app or any sort of yoga app that you can get on YouTube. And I move my body. And by opening up your hips, by stretching out your side body, by just taking a moment to pause and take those deep breaths, you're starting to move the energy throughout your body. And I know that for someone who hasn't focused on the practice in that way before, it sounds a little wild, but I am telling you, it is the most effective thing I have found to immediately shift my mood and feel energized about what's ahead.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, one of my mentors, and one of the simpler things that she's taught me, which is not so simple or easy to practice, is just again your breath work. I listened to you on another podcast, but she simplifies it, and her name's Cho Yoder. I got to give her some love. But it's just PBS: pause, breathe, and smile. When you talked about resetting your nervous system, that is one of the best things that when life is happening, if we can just pump our brakes, stop what we're doing, take a big deep breath in through our nose like we're smelling a rose, try and hold that for 4 seconds or so, blow out through your mouth like you're blowing out your birthday candles, and then just give yourself a nice, gentle, loving smile. It is incredible if you could do that for a couple minutes of how your parasympathetic nervous system is going to slow down your heart rate, going to slow down your breathing, going to drop your cortisol, and just allow you to be in that space for a second. And you will see things differently if you can incorporate that into your daily practice, which is kind of what my next question is for you, is what are your life's essential ingredients, first of all, and then how do you make sure you eat those, so to say, every day, if you can?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I would say at their core, sleep, clean fuel, movement. Those are my three non-negotiables daily. And then I try to do something spiritual, whatever that means. I pray, I would walk in nature, I might go to church, I try to do a gratitude practice every night before bed. I just jot down a few things that I'm really grateful for that day. Um, so those are the three or four things that are non-negotiables for me. And the way I hold myself accountable to doing those things is accountability. I actually have an accountability coach, which is one of the things I suggest to women at the start of their journey. Because to your earlier point, Jeff, it is so hard for us to put ourselves first and show up in a compassionate, loving way for ourselves. But that's what accountability coaching is. It's holding you accountable to the goals you set for yourself. And that, starting the practice of that and being held accountable for eating clean fuel, moving my body every day, and doing something that feeds my spiritual self, that changed everything. I learned to show up for myself again. It bled outside the lines of nutrition and exercise and started empowering me to go for that promotion at work, to create more boundaries with the people that I felt like didn't need that whole part of me at all times, right? And so I think accountability and finding a way to hold yourself accountable to the things that matter most to you is really important. But again, I do believe that, eating wholesome foods and moving your body daily, like those two things. And then of course the sleep is critically important. But we hear that all the time from doctors and scientists. And, I think that that's a pretty obvious thing, but it's so often the first thing that we decide to turn our back on when times get stressful. It's like, oh, I've got to finish this thing. I'm just going to stay up late. Or I need something quick to eat. I'm just going to grab that snack out of the cabinet instead of making yourself that salad. Or I don't have 45 minutes to walk because I've got to get this thing done. Or I don't want to wake up early enough. But the accountability teaches you how to show up for yourself and trust yourself again. And once you build those muscles, you can tackle anything, absolutely anything.
And I love that you're accountability coach. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, life happens. And again, we're just going to, by default, usually take the path of least resistance, which most often is not the healthiest thing for us.
Right.
And so a couple other things I want to finish what we're talking about now. And then you've mentioned trust yourself a few times. I want to get to that in 1 second, but I'm curious with your practices, where does technology fall in all of those? And I'm talking about the smartphone, not necessarily apps and stuff, but the balance. My wife, I have two daughters, and my youngest is teaching English in Korea. And
Wow.
we just got back from that trip, and then we went to see my cousin. What's up, Tokyo Dan, in Tokyo. And it was fascinating. I'm not going to get into the difference in the culture, but one thing that did jump out at me in Korea was the amount that people are on their phones. And it really kind of took me back, because it's obviously everybody here in the US, unfortunately, is on it. But in Korea, it just seemed to even notch up a little bit more. And I was just really shocked at that. But what advice do you have for people? And I have no idea if this is something you study, but just in kind of researching, I'm guessing you have some sort of balance, harmony, something that you're doing with your technology practices, or maybe I'm smoking some stuff. I don't know.
Oh, I love that you're bringing this up. I mean, I think I would admittedly love to be more intentional with my technology practice. I feel like I'm on technology and social media all the time because I'm building a brand and a business. So the nature of what I do, I have to be on technology more than I would like to be. I think what's key, as much as I would love to change the external world and cut down on the technology we're exposed to every day, I feel like that's a longer challenge ahead and something I have less control over. What I do have control over is being intentional in how I engage with it. And I think one thing that I will say is I have really learned through this work how to take a step back and not care as much about what other people think. That's been a real gift coming out the other side of this journey. And that's helped a lot in terms of just scrolling on my phone late at night. But I think by nature of the work that I'm suggesting people do, right? Getting quiet, taking that pause first thing, making sure they move their body, you won't feel as distracted by the technology. You kind of start your day in this mode of, okay, I'm energized. Like this day can bring so many miracles. And it's up to me to bring that energy to the world so that it matches it back. The world brings that back to me. And when you're in that state of excitement, of expectation and joy, you don't find yourself scrolling endlessly on your phone the way you maybe did in the past. So I do in many ways feel like the modalities and approaches we talk about on the show make people very intentional about how they engage with technology versus reactive and getting sucked into the vortex that is some of these social media channels or even just your email inbox.
Yeah, we'll move on from that. It's a hot kind of subject for me, but I'm gonna let it go. But let's get in real quick. You mentioned 3 or 4 times about trusting yourself, and I don't know if that sounds simple. It's not simple in my world. I think life is constantly challenging us to figure out who we are and what we stand for, and keeping that belief is something that's not so easy sometimes. What tips would you have? And I guess, how did you really, it's probably tied into all this stuff we've been talking about, but is there a little difference, or, what advice would you give to the listeners for that? And even before you answer that one, if you can, I'm kind of mumbling here a little bit, but what does trust mean to you, and how do you define that?
I mean, for me, trust is listening to and actioning your intuition. And I think that is what I'm trying to help women do again, is really get back in touch with that inner knowing, that intuitive feeling that guides you, your compass. I think it's so hard to hear our true selves with all the technology and the noise and the to-dos and the responsibilities and the caretaking for others. And I think we live kind of a short distance from our bodies, right? So I'm trying to create alignment for women, teach them how to become present again so that they can hear themselves once again. And when you can hear yourself, you trust that voice. And by trusting in that voice, you can then start to action whatever it is your future vision holds for you. And for me personally, I think hearing myself again was the first step, because take this podcast, for example. That was a divine download, I like to call it. That was not in my mind when I went to bed the night before. That was planted there by spirit, by the universe, by God, by whatever you believe in. But I woke up and I had a choice to ignore everything that I had been given, or to say, no, this is here for a reason. There's something inside is lighting me up, and I feel that. I can either chase this and start to take steps to bring this to fruition, despite how crazy it seems in that moment, right? I'm an executive at this great company. I have a wonderful job, security, and I'm thinking about leaving all of that to start a podcast in a category I really don't have a degree in, right? I mean, it was really a leap of faith. But I heard myself for the first time. I heard my instinct, my intuition telling me that this was my purpose and what I needed to go do. And once I took that first step, the next step revealed itself, and then the next, and then the next. And there's no turning back now. I mean, the notes I've gotten from listeners, the work I get to do every day, the life that I've created for myself, is so fulfilling. I can't imagine going back to the way it was, but none of it would have happened if I didn't trust myself and trust that voice. And I think women have unlearned how to hear it. And if they do hear it or get whispers of it, they don't know what it is and they don't listen to it anymore because it seems crazy or we're so conditioned to do what everyone else is doing. It's that tribe mentality. We're so scared to step away from the pack. And this is where learning to not care what people think has been critical in moving forward in this journey.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's get into the journey. Again, we've been dancing around it the whole time, but tell the listeners more about your show and maybe some of your heroes so they can make sure they listen into it and check it out and everything else. So share whatever you want in that space.
Well, thanks, Jeff. I think the key thing to know is that our podcast is different in that it's not a kind of revolving door of guests as a lot of podcasts offer. It's my 12 healers, or as I like to call them, my board of advisors. And I conduct one-on-one interviews with each of them each week to go deep into their area of expertise. And the goal is we've now talked about, with all 12 of my healers, we've shared 15 plus different approaches, modalities to come into alignment and heal mind, body, and spirit. And the goal is to really teach women and empower them to use these tools in ways that are authentic for them. I always say you don't have to do all the things on the show. I have done them and I love all of them. But it's really about giving them a menu of approaches and ways to do this work that are authentic to the individual. And so that's what we're teaching. And we cover everything from the more traditional psychotherapy and EMDR, mindset coaching, accountability, spirituality, all the way through the more mystical, astrology, tarot, human design, psychic mediumship, and everything in between. And the goal is to really get curious about yourself, be courageous enough to do this work, and be kind to yourself in the process. And it's just been it's changed everything. It truly has changed everything. And I just want that for other women. I want them to learn how to take back their power and to rediscover that voice, that knowing that tells them why they're here, why are they on this earth, what are they here to do, and just release any of the roadblocks and obstacles that are holding them back from creating the life of their dreams, because anyone can do this work.
Man, I'm loving it. Again, listeners, make sure you go to healingheroespodcast.com to view Chandler's site, meet all of her heroes, and then to listen to her show. Let's get in. I know you're learning so much, and you mentioned one great book. Any other books that are out there that you think would be helpful for the listeners to run out and get?
Well, one book in particular that really was a catalyst in me doing this work outside of Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, which I highly recommend to anyone. I mean, it's a New York Times bestseller. Many people have heard of it. Highly recommend. I think all of my heroes have cited that book on the show. But outside of that, I also love the book Homecoming by Dr. Tama Bryant. She was interviewed on the Mel Robbins podcast, and I listened to that episode and wept for over an hour walking outside listening to these two women talk about how, again, trauma changes you, but that it is possible to come home to yourself, even if you've never met yourself before. And I felt so seen in that conversation and so inspired by this concept of coming home to yourself again, that really I think that is what I am helping women do. And I haven't said this explicitly yet, but ultimately the work we're doing on the show is to teach women how to rediscover their self-worth, to learn how to love themselves again. Because I can tell you, in the psychotherapy and EMDR and all the work I did to unearth my past, the most shocking, surprising thing I learned in my journey was the most disturbing parts of what I experienced were actually not what happened to me. It was the beliefs that I cultivated and created about myself as a result of those experiences that I held on to, that became ingrained in my subconscious and were piloting the plane of my life without me even realizing it. And as soon as I knew, oh my God, these are the stories that I've been telling myself underneath the surface, I could go back and excavate those beliefs and change them and learn to love myself more and find my self-worth. And my body felt safe again. And I could come home to myself because now I'm a safe place. And I want to teach women how to move back home again into their bodies, because that's really when you feel this tectonic shift in your life and everything begins to change.
That is beautiful. And again, I get just such an honor sitting on this side and just knowing there's people like you and that are out there just doing great things to help so many other people through this thing called life that often is difficult. But knowing that there's so many great people out there that do care and that are sharing their gifts and are there for each other. So yeah, thank you so much for doing that. We're almost wrapping this up, but I wish I read it more. For some reason, I moved on to something else, but I think you wrote a little piece called Broken Crayon Still Color.
No, it was a speech that I was asked to give at a local organization. The theme was Broken Crayon Still Color, which is the title of a children's book by, I believe, Tony Collier, and was asked to speak on that topic. So I did write sort of, I guess you could call it an article of sorts, but it was my thoughts on how no matter what has happened to you, it is still possible for you to create beauty in this world. And that is honestly what I am trying to do with this work and the podcast and the community, is to help women realize that they are not broken. Healing is not about fixing yourself. It's about finding yourself. And I want to help women find themselves again.
Mm-hmm. It might not be the correct thing to say, but are you familiar with the word kintsugi? You guys
No.
Yeah, so it's you're gonna, I think, like this, maybe not, but it's an ancient art form that the Japanese have been practicing since like the 8th century. And they'll take like a beautiful vase and they'll intentionally break it. And
know that was the technical name for it. Please keep describing it for listeners, though.
And then they'll clean it up, put some lacquer on it, and put some 24 karat gold, and it's more beautiful and stronger than it was in its original form. And I love, I'm not going to get into it, but we even have that because trust is such a big part of pizza making and like the dough, and it comes out in how we shape the dough. So there's 4 different categories, but one of them is this kintsugi dough. Sometimes, we get a hole in that dough, and it's just about grabbing a little bit more dough, putting it in there, cleaning it up, shaping it a little bit, and we're good to go. I didn't get to read that piece, but I just read a few of the sentences in it, but I loved what you were saying of like a broken crayon. So many times people think that there's no value in that crayon. Well, yeah, there is. It totally can give you so many different ways and kind of texture to what you're coloring in on. I think it's a good place to get ready to wrap this up, of knowing that life is going to give us so many different challenges, that when we can take a step back, like and Carl Jung, I'm not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become, and then gather the resources that we need to allow ourselves to listen to ourselves and realize that we have everything we need right here inside us. If we can just get out of our own way, and if we can be willing to ask for help, and seek those people that can offer the help with their expertise, which there's so many people out there. But yeah, I'm just about done. I think the only other thing I have, then I'll let you end with any comments. But there's a great quote from John Alston that I really like, and it's the only thing you take with you when you're gone is what you leave behind. And you're a young lady. I'm going to give you another 60 years or so.
Thanks, Jeff.
But now you're a little bit older and you're on your deathbed and you're surrounded by all the people who have been essential in your life, and you're getting ready to take your last breath. And what is it that, as you're doing that you want to leave behind with them?
No one's asked me that question before, Jeff. I'm going to have to marinate on that longer, but I guess for right now, I would just say that I would love all of those people to be able to say that she really taught the world how to love itself again. That's really the legacy I want to leave behind, is people learning that they are enough just as they are and being okay with that, being more than okay with that. Because I think when people learn to love themselves, that extends outward, and that's really where we start to change the world.
Love it. Any other closing comments?
This is so great, Jeff. I mean, I would just tell your listeners nothing surprising, but you are enough. What you're doing is enough. Who you are is enough at your core. You don't need to be anyone else. And just try to really embrace that concept and move through life with it, even if you're not ready to be on a healing journey. The most important thing you can do for yourself today is speak to yourself with compassion, the same compassion you would give to your child, your niece, your nephew, your best friend, someone you really care about. And I think that's a good test. Make sure that the narrative and the scripts that you're going over in your head reflect that of something you would say to somebody you love.
Again, listeners, Chandler Stroud, coming from Darien, Connecticut, doing work all over the world with her Healing Heroes podcast. Go to her site, healingheroespodcast.com. Same for her Instagram. Normally our Pasho gets us out, but listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode. Boom, baby. We out.